We just got done watching NXT Vengeance Day 2026, and this was a very good show from NXT. A little bit more violent, a little bit more stipulations than we usually get, so a very good showing from NXT on the night.
Tonight was a very fun night with a lot of fun matches, but it also sets up Stand and Deliver very well in the coming weeks.
And for the first match of the night, we have Blake Monroe versus Jada Parker in their street fight match. Now, this was a very crazy match, and NXT usually don't see violent moments where things happen and it actually looks like it hurts and the wrestlers look like they're in pain and they're able to sell that kind of pain and you're able to buy it as well as a viewer of it, obviously being like, damn, it looks like she actually just got wrecked with whatever just happened. But in this match, they kind of were able to pull that kind of mess off during this match, because we've seen Blake Monroe take a suplex to the outside, and the way that her facial expressions were during that match, she just slamming the ground like visually in pain, was very, very good. We've seen kendo sticks, we've seen chairs, we've seen a teardrop from Jada Parker to Blake Monroe, kind of like a springboard off the apron through a table. So a very cool moment from Jada Parker. I didn't really expect that out of her through this match, but we do eventually see Blake Monroe get to the finish where she throws the diamonds into her eyes, hits a Hurricane Rana to her onto the diamonds, and then hits her glamour shot to finish the match.
For me, Jada Parker has been someone who consistently performs very well in these type of stipulation matches. As you mentioned, she had the big teardrop off to the outside through the table, which kind of looked kind of nasty, kind of looked like just her legs had hit, but I think she did make full contact, and I hope she's fine. But yeah, overall, it was a really fun match. I love that Blake kind of consistently using the diamonds. It's kind of like her little gimmick instead of this tax, because we know we want to see that in WWE. But yeah, this match was very fun. I'm glad that Blake won. However, I did kind of want Jada to win, because it feels like we're still off the back of her return still. We want to kind of build her up a little bit more to get to that world title picture eventually, but it feels like we're going to get Blake there first before Jada, so who knows where Jada will go next. And I don't think this is the end of the feud. I do think we have one more between these two, but yeah, it should be a good final match.
Yeah, it'll be very interesting to see where Blake Monroe goes from here. Obviously, she had chances at the North American title, at the world title, so it'll be very curious, because you know she's not going for Sol or Zarya. That's kind of all wrapped up in a feud of their own. And the North American title feud is also kind of wrapped up as well, so maybe she'll go after Tatum Paxley. That's a new feud that we haven't really seen yet, but I would also like to see her kind of maybe just go to that main roster and just be done with NXT after Stand and Deliver. For the second match, we have Tony D'Angelo versus Dion Lennox of Dark State, and this was another match that was built up pretty well over the past few weeks. We've seen the Dark State members kind of take out Tony D'Angelo in the past weeks, and then Tony D'Angelo came back, takes out all of them, and Dion Lennox was the last one standing, the last one in his way before going after that world title. At least that's what we think at the very moment. But yeah, this ended up being a very good match. This made me a believer of Tony D'Angelo. I always had like a little bit of belief of maybe he could be really big, maybe he could actually be something when he goes to the main roster outside of this kind of gimmick that he was under with his previous gimmick. But now he has a kind of monstrous look to him that he had tonight, where he had his tank top on, his hair was kind of all wild and all over the place, and he just looked jacked as hell. But this was a different Tony D'Angelo than we've seen in the past, and I did really like this one. His in-ring work looked very well. Same thing with Dion Lennox as well. He's always kind of been impressing me over the past few weeks and even months, since Deadline pretty much. But this was a surprisingly good match, a parking lot brawl that eventually led into a regular singles match in the ring. But yeah, very good match from the two, and I really did enjoy this. And Tony D'Angelo does pick up that win and finish off the entire group of Dark State.
Yeah, this first hour was very chaotic. Obviously, following a street fight, you have this match that starts, like you said, in the parking lot. We see a fake Tony D'Angelo arrive in a car, and all of Dark State tries to jump him. They realize it's not him. Tony D'Angelo whips out the crowbar. He takes out one of the members, and that's kind of like the story where he kind of takes out one by one eventually until it is just that one-on-one with Dion. But yeah, in the end, Tony does get the win. But obviously, the main thing is also going to be what is next for Tony D'Angelo. He said Phase 1 was destroying Dark State, taking them all out, and then he'll move on to Phase 2, and he'll explain that when he gets there. But now that Ava was gone, he said he was going to tell that to her, so who knows how that will play out. I guess we'll see with Robert Stone now. But yeah, it should be interesting for what Tony D'Angelo does going into Stand and Deliver now as well.
Yeah, I'm assuming we go in the direction of Joe Hendry, but it also looks like Ricky Saints and Ethan Page also are both still looking at that title, with the way Ethan kind of had his thing go on throughout this pay-per-view, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But yeah, very interesting world title scene that I'm sure will be very interesting, even more so going into Stand and Deliver. For the first title match of the night, we have Tatum Paxley versus Izzy Dame. Now, this is obviously a blood feud that's been built up for a couple of months at this point, and this is a very interesting match because everyone wanted Tatum to win, but at the same time, Izzy Dame has really been crushing it recently, so it's kind of like a good thing that she had the title and she kind of elevated herself with that title. But Tatum Paxley does pick up the big win. This was a really good match. There was a point in the match where she does do like her 450, and that looked like and it felt like it was gonna be the finish, but they went a little bit longer, and that was the point where I feel like maybe the crowd died just a little bit. It felt like it went maybe a little bit too long, but the work was really good throughout it. They did keep the crowd invested for the most part, and yeah, I really enjoyed Tatum Paxley throughout this match. She once again proves that she is ready for that main roster at any time that you need her, and Izzy Dame as well, probably her best match that she's had in NXT.
Yeah, this was my absolute favorite match of the night. Tatum Paxley, I think, was one of her best performances we've ever seen from her, as well as Izzy Dame, as you mentioned. But yeah, this match, it felt like a real true indie match. It saw a lot of false finishes. You had a lot of moments where you thought Tatum was gonna get counted out when she got distracted with Shawn Spears. There's a few moments where she kind of got distracted, she got rolled up. So there's a lot of stuff going on. But in the end, she gets the big win. She has a really cool moment at the end where she gets hit with a code breaker, and then she hits her, and then she kind of like bounces out of it, does a little power up, and goes into her finisher. So yeah, it was a really cool moment for Tatum. I'm glad she is a champion now. And yeah, it does suck for Izzy because she was, like you mentioned, she was on a roll. But Tatum being the champion now, I think is the right call and probably the better call, because I think she is somebody who will be a world champion once this a group of people like JC, Zarya, Sol, Kalani, all of them get caught up. I think she's next in line for the world champion.
Yeah, hopefully Izzy Dame does not miss out on that stand and deliver card now that she isn't the champion, because that would kind of be a shame. She's doing really good work right now, and I have really been kind of wanting to see her do more and wanting to see her have more matches, as well as people like Fallon Henley and things of that nature as well. So hopefully we do see her on that stand and deliver card. I just don't know exactly where she would fit in at the current moment. For our fourth match on the night, we have Kalani Jordan versus Lola Vice in our underground match. Now this one, at least to me, it felt like a pretty obvious winner with Lola Vice. This is pretty much her stipulation. Kalani Jordan did really good throughout this match, surprisingly good even, and yeah, she definitely did make me believe that she was going to be a winner at different points throughout this match. But of course, Lola Vice does pick up the win at the end.
You know, these underground matches, they can end in a lot of different ways. Obviously, it's kind of their own play on an MMA style match, so it could be one of those things where you could see a quick knockout and stuff like that. But I guess in wrestling, it's a lot different because these characters don't want to lose, so they don't want to get knocked out in 3 seconds. If it, you know, even that is a real thing that happens in real mixed martial arts. But Lola Vice getting the win is obviously a fine choice, just because, like we said, we kind of knew it's her stipulation now. I always find it funny that after she gets her win, she knocks her out, she hits a few more hits on her, and then the ref raises her hand, and then he starts immediately hitting her emote. I love it, it's funny. But yeah, I love that Lola Vice is kind of putting some more momentum. She feels like somebody who has been at the top of the mid card in the women's division, and it feels like she's on the brink of making that world title push. But I don't know where she goes from here. Obviously, her and Kalani have had this feud for the past few weeks now, so yeah, it'll be interesting what happens for her as well going into Stand and Deliver.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if Lola Vice goes the direction of the main roster, or with the way she's been doing a lot of work in AAA. Maybe they just let her go work there and be like the face of AAA, because that wouldn't be a bad kind of spot for her to be in. I know obviously everyone on NXT wants to just go to the main roster, and that's the ultimate objective, but I do think sending her to AAA wouldn't be a bad thing to kind of make sure that she gets the amount of time that she deserves as a performer, because she is really good, and I think she would fit into that AAA crowd a lot better, and they would probably like her a lot more than maybe the main roster crowd would, and they would be adjusted to her a lot more, being that she's already kind of familiar with the AAA system there.
Before we head into our main event, we had JC Jane with the rest of Fatal Influence, as well as Robert Stone in the ring, where she kind of talks about how she has kind of had such a difference in the past year. Last year, going into Stand and Deliver, she was on the pre-show in a women's tag team match, but now this year she plans on going to Stand and Deliver and even main eventing it now. However, the premise of this entire thing was to find out her next opponent, but it would end up being Zarya, who comes out and they have a little interaction, but obviously Sol Ruka also follows up, and it ends up setting up a big triple threat, not at Stand and Deliver, but in 2 weeks time on NXT. So who knows how that will fall out and who will be the champion going into the Stand and Deliver, because this does feel like the match that we would have seen at Stand and Deliver, probably in the main event as well.
Yeah, I fully expected to see that match at Stand and Deliver, but I will say I mentioned this to you before this segment was announced, but I did really want Sol and Zarya to go one-on-one anyway at Stand and Deliver. So I do like that this happened. I don't really know what this means for JC Jane. Are we just going to run this back again and have 2 triple threat matches and do it now and then do another one at Stand and Deliver? So I don't really know what this means for JC. Is she going to lose and then not make the Stand and Deliver card? Because she's definitely someone who has to be on that card if she's still part of that roster at least. But yeah, I hope that she does go to the main roster immediately and is in a big spot. I could definitely see her just challenging Julia immediately for the US title. But yeah, I'm a little bit worried to see where she goes and what she does, and hopefully she doesn't stay in NXT longer, because she's probably the longest reigning person there at this point, I would have to assume. So I do have a lot of high hopes for her, and hopefully she does kind of find her way into that Stand Deliver card if she's not on the main roster by then. And for the main event of the night, we have Joe Hendry taking on Ricky Saints for that NXT World Championship. And this was pretty much exactly what I expected it to be. I expected at some point Ethan Page to come in, get involved in this match, but I also still expected Joe Hendry to come out on top, because there was no way that Joe Hendry was going in to stand deliver without that world title. He is probably the most over man at this point. As much as people love Ethan Page, as much as people love Ricky Saints, I would probably say Joe Hendry is the most over person out of all of them, at least in the world of NXT. But to no surprise, Joe Hendry does pick up the big win. He looked pretty good throughout this thing. Ricky Saints looked extremely well throughout this thing. The biggest point is going to be the point where Ethan Page does get involved, because pretty much Ricky Saints has the match won, and I don't really know what his plan was, because Joe Hendry was down and so was he, but he's kind of calling for Ethan Page to come in with the title, whereas if he were to hit him with the title, he would be DQ'd. So it's a very interesting thing, but what we see is Ethan Page throw it past him, Joe Hendry gets it, which sets up the ref to take it from him. He turns his back, which sets up the ultimate play, which was to low blow him. So it did kind of reveal itself a little bit later, but in the moment, I was kind of like, what is he doing? If he hits him with the title, he's going to get DQ'd. But it kind of made sense once the ref took it, he turned his back and all that sort of stuff. It made perfect sense. But the big surprising part of it is going to be Joe Hendry also hit a low blow while the ref's back was turned. So a very surprising thing there. You don't usually see the babyface do a low blow, but Joe Hendry did it. But it was a good finish. I did like it. It kind of put that surprising shock face on Ethan Page on the outside of the ring, where he was like, oh my god, we just messed this up somehow, even though it worked out perfectly. But Joe Hendry does retain, and it looks like we're going into Stand and Deliver with a potential triple threat, is the way I kind of seen that play out.
Yeah, I definitely thought this was going to be the triple threat for Stand and Deliver of Joe Hendry, Ricky, and Ethan. It's just the three biggest guys in NXT right now, so it makes sense. But I did think Ricky Saints was going to be the one to go in it when you'd see Ethan Page take the belt at Stand and Deliver. But now that we see Joe Hendry retain, I don't think we'll see a triple threat, just because I don't think we'll see both world champions in a triple threat. But who knows what that women's one will look like? Who knows what this one will look like? But yeah, I am interested to see if that was all part of the plan of kind of Ethan slipping the belt all the way past Ricky, or if he kind of was thinking in his mind, okay, screw Ricky, I can just get this and I can get my own match with Joe and I know I can beat him. But in the end, it seems like they had some type of plan, but yeah, who knows how that will play out. And yeah, this feels like this isn't over between these three, I'm sure, but yeah, it'll be really interesting in these next coming weeks.
Yeah, potentially a fatal four-way if they want to add Tony D'Angelo to the mix, where I could see him ultimately pick up the win over all three of them, because he is just that dominant big man. Ethan and Ricky could go to the main roster. Honestly, same with Joe Hendry. He could just go to the main roster. I could see him fit in on SmackDown perfectly, especially now that people like Danhausen, R-Truth, and things of that nature are there. That could be a really fun little kind of thing you could do with a group of people. Yeah, that is NXT Vengeance Day 2026. A very good show from NXT. You don't really see too many stipulation matches happen over there, but tonight they did it and it worked out really well. So hopefully we'll see more of this. They also have 5 matches, which is also a little bit more than what they would normally do. So hopefully we see more of that as well. And hopefully they pick up that on the main roster as well, because I would like to start seeing 5, maybe even 6 matches on these PLEs. But this was a very good show. I appreciate the work that all the people from NXT did on this one. Blake Monroe looked very well. Tony D'Angelo made me a fan tonight. Tatum Paxton, Izzy Dane with the match of their career on NXT, and then Lola Vice and Joe Hendry picking up big wins as well. But we appreciate you guys for watching, and we'll catch you guys in the next one.